Close your eyes and think about the sound of a cafeteria tray hitting a metal rail. That scrape, that clatter. 30 kids in a line at once, steam off a stainless counter, a lunch lady in a hairnet asking if you want peas or corn. If you grew up eating lunch at a public school in the 1960s, that sound just brought back memories you didn't know you still had. Today we are walking down that lunch line one more time. 25 meals and cafeteria staples that defined the American school lunch tray before frozen pizza pockets and self-serve salad bars ever existed. Some of these you will remember instantly. A few you will swear you dreamed up. All of them tell you something bigger about how America fed its kids and how fast that world disappeared. Let's get in line. Number 25, the divided metal tray. Before the food, there was the tray itself. Heavy, dented, aluminum, with 3 or 4 compartments pressed into the metal, cold to the touch even after the food landed on it. Kids slid it down a stainless steel rail, listening to it clank against the next tray. The compartments kept your peas from touching your mashed potatoes, which mattered more than anything else in the world at age 9. Plastic trays eventually replaced them, but nothing rattled quite like that original metal tray moving down the line. Number 24. Sloppy Joes on a bun. Ground beef simmered in ketchup, mustard, and brown sugar, ladled onto a soft white bun that fell apart the second you picked it up. Sloppy Joe Day meant a line of paper napkins piled at the end of the counter because everybody needed at least 3. The sauce ran down your wrist before your first bite. For the kids, a Sloppy Joe tray with a side of corn was as good as school lunch got, and everybody knew which day of the week it was without checking a calendar. Number 23. Fish Stick Friday. Breaded, deep-fried, rectangular fish sticks lined up like little logs, always on a Friday because of Catholic Meatless Friday tradition baked into public school menus. Served with a paper cup of tartar sauce and a lemon wedge nobody used. The smell hit the hallway before you reached the cafeteria door. Some kids loved dunking every stick in ketchup instead of tartar sauce, a small rebellion against the rules of fish. Fish Stick Friday became so standard that entire generations can still smell that fried breading the moment someone says the words. Number 22. Chocolate milk in a waxed carton. A small waxed cardboard carton, folded at the top like a tiny barn roof that you had to pry open with cold fingers without spilling a drop. Whole milk, sometimes warm from sitting on the tray line too long, chocolate flavored just enough to make kids beg for a second one. Straws were paper too, and went soft after about 90 seconds, meaning the last few sips came straight from the carton, milk mustache included, proof you finished lunch on time. Number 21. Government surplus cheese. Thick, orange, processed American cheese that showed up on sandwiches and in casseroles thanks to USDA commodity programs feeding cafeterias directly from federal warehouses. It melted in a way nothing else did, smooth and almost plastic, holding its shape even when hot. Cafeteria staff stretched it across bread, over vegetables, into anything that needed a protein boost on a tight budget. Kids didn't know or care where it came from. They just knew it tasted like cheese day, and cheese day was a good day. Number 20. Tater tots. Crispy little cylinders of shredded potato, invented in the 1950s to use up potato scraps and adopted almost instantly by every cafeteria in the country. A scoop of 8 or 10 tots landed in its own tray compartment, golden and steaming, sometimes doused in ketchup from a squeeze bottle chained to the counter. Kids counted their tots like currency, trading extras for a cookie or a second carton of milk. Tater tots turned a scrap of potato into the single most requested side dish in American school lunch history. Number 19. Chipped beef on toast. Dried, salted beef shavings folded into a thick white cream sauce, ladled over toast until the bread went soft under the weight. Military families called it something far less polite, but cafeterias served it proudly as a hearty, cheap protein option. The sauce had a peppery bite that either won kids over or sent them straight to the milk carton for relief. It filled you up fast and stuck to your ribs through a long afternoon of arithmetic in recess, which was really the whole point. Number 18. Canned peach halves. A single peach half, pale yellow, syrupy, sitting in its own puddle of thick canned juice in the smallest tray compartment. Kids either loved the sweetness or picked at it slowly, saving it for last like dessert. The syrup ran into whatever sat next to it if the tray tilted, which happened constantly in the crowded lunch line. Canned peaches, pears, pineapple rings, they rotated through the week, always a little too sweet, always a welcome break from the heavier main dishes. Number 17. Pizza squares. Rectangular, not round. Cut into squares because a sheet pan was easier to portion for 400 kids than any round pie could be. A thin layer of sauce, a blanket of cheese, a crust closer to bread than to a proper pizza crust. Pizza Day drew the longest line in the building, kids rushing from recess to beat the crowd before the squares ran out. It wasn't Italian pizza and nobody pretended it was. It was cafeteria pizza, its own category, and an entire generation still measures every slice against that rectangular memory. Number 16. Jell-O cubes in a paper cup. Bright red or green cubes wobbling in a small paper cup, sometimes with canned fruit cocktail suspended inside like a science experiment. Kids raced to see who could eat theirs without it sliding off the little wooden spoon. The cups steamed up slightly from sitting near the hot food line, and the Jell-O would arrive half-melted at the edges by the time you sat down. It counted as dessert, it counted as fun, and it disappeared from trays in under 30 seconds. Number 15. Peanut butter and jelly on a tray. Not a sandwich from home, but a cafeteria-made PB&J, prepared in bulk and served as the daily backup for kids who didn't want the hot lunch. Thick peanut butter, a smear of grape jelly, white bread pressed flat since morning. It sat wrapped in wax paper until lunch period, a little dry by the time it reached your hands. For picky eaters, this tray was salvation, guaranteed and predictable in a cafeteria full of daily surprises, and lunch ladies kept a stack ready behind the counter. Number 14. Salisbury steak with brown gravy. An oval patty of seasoned ground beef, smothered in thick brown gravy, sitting next to a scoop of mashed potatoes built for soaking up every drop of that gravy. It looked like a real steak dinner from across the cafeteria, close enough to make kids feel like they were eating something special. The gravy spread into the potatoes and vegetables until the whole compartment blurred into one warm brown meal. Salisbury Steak Day felt like a small upgrade, saved for the middle of the week. Number 13. Green beans cooked until gray. Canned green beans, boiled again until any hint of bright color faded into a dull olive gray, soft enough to cut with the side of a fork. Nobody asked for seconds, but nobody sent them back either, since vegetables were simply part of the deal. A little pat of margarine sometimes melted on top, doing its best to add flavor to beans that had given up most of theirs between the can and the tray. Every cafeteria in the country served some version of these beans, and every kid ate them without much complaint. Number 12. Butterscotch pudding cups. A small metal or glass dish of thick tan pudding, sometimes with a thin skin on top that kids either peeled off first or ate straight through. Butterscotch pudding day felt like a treat even though it showed up nearly every week, rich and sweet enough to make the rest of the tray worth finishing. Lunch ladies scooped it from giant institutional pans behind the counter, portioning it with the same steady rhythm as everything else. For a lot of kids, that pudding cup was the entire reason to eat every vegetable first. Number 11. Meatloaf with ketchup glaze. A dense brick of ground beef, breadcrumbs, and onion, baked in long pans and sliced into thick rectangles, each one brushed with a shiny ketchup glaze on top. It held together on the fork better than almost anything else on the tray, filling and heavy, built for kids who needed real fuel to get through a full afternoon of school. The glaze caramelized slightly at the edges, giving the outside extra sweetness against the plain interior. Meatloaf Day rotated through the menu like clockwork, dependable in a way few other dishes managed. Number 10. Corn on the cob, cut in half. A half ear of corn, boiled soft, dropped onto the tray with a small pat of butter melting slowly across the kernels. Kids gripped it with both hands, corn silk still clinging near the edges, working across it the way everybody eats corn on the cob, back and forth in careful lines. It was messy, buttery, and required real effort compared to everything else pre-cut and portioned around it. Corn on the cob day felt almost like a picnic dropped into the middle of a regular school week. Number 9. Mystery meat. The name kids gave to whatever gray, pressed protein showed up on days nobody could identify. It might have been a Salisbury steak variant, a meatloaf leftover, or a genuine cafeteria mystery nobody ever solved. Kids joked about it constantly, poking it with a fork before the first bite, building a whole cafeteria mythology around a dish that was probably just an unlabeled commodity meat product. Mystery meat became a shared joke across the country, a phrase every American kid from that era understood instantly, whether their cafeteria served it or not. Number 8. Applesauce in a small dish. A small serving of plain applesauce, pale and smooth, usually the safest item on the tray for even the pickiest kids in the room. It required no chewing, no real commitment, and disappeared in about 4 spoonfuls. Cafeteria staff kept it in constant rotation because it paired with almost anything, a neutral, sweet counterbalance to heavier main dishes like meatloaf or Salisbury steak. For kids recovering from a rough morning of gym class or a hard math test, that little dish of applesauce was often the one thing on the tray that felt like comfort. Number 7. Cornbread squares. A thick, slightly sweet square of cornbread, sometimes served alongside chili or baked beans, other times standing alone with a small pat of butter. The texture crumbled easily, leaving little yellow bits scattered across the tray by the time lunch ended. Kids who liked it sweet drizzled honey on top when it was available at the condiment counter. Cornbread day usually meant something warm and hearty sat on the rest of the tray too, a sign the meal was about to feel more like home cooking than usual. Number 6. Baked beans with a strip of bacon. Thick, sweet, brown baked beans, simmered in molasses and ketchup with a single strip of bacon laid across the top. Served alongside cornbread or a hot dog more often than not, filling the cafeteria with a smoky, sweet smell that drifted past the serving line. Kids picked out the bacon strip first every time, saving or savoring it depending on strategy. Baked bean day paired naturally with a hot dog tray, turning an ordinary Tuesday into something closer to a backyard cookout. Number 5. Hot dogs on a steamed bun. A single hot dog, boiled or steamed, tucked into a soft white bun warmed just enough to go slightly translucent at the edges. Ketchup and mustard sat in squeeze bottles at the end of the line, and kids layered them on generously before the tray reached the table. Hot dog day required almost no cleanup, one of the easiest lunches for cafeteria staff to serve a packed room of hungry kids. Paired with baked beans or tater tots, it rounded out one of the most requested combinations on the monthly menu. Number 4. Grilled cheese sandwich, cut diagonally. 2 slices of white bread, a slab of that same government surplus American cheese, grilled until both sides turn golden brown and crisp. Cut diagonally into 2 triangles, always diagonally, because a cafeteria worker decided decades earlier that triangles simply tasted better than rectangles. Served most often with tomato soup on cold weather days, the pairing became so automatic that kids expected one the moment they smelled the other cooking. Grilled cheese day required almost no persuasion, a guaranteed clean tray from nearly every kid. Number 3. Vegetable beef soup with saltine crackers. A thin, brothy soup loaded with diced carrots, potatoes, and small chunks of beef, served in a paper bowl alongside a cellophane sleeve of saltine crackers. Kids crumbled the crackers straight into the bowl, watching them soften and dissolve into the broth within a minute or two. It warmed you up fast on a cold day, especially paired with a grilled cheese sandwich on the side. Soup day felt like a school lunch built for winter, comfort food dressed up in a cafeteria bowl, familiar in a way few other trays managed. Number 2. The ice cream cup with the wooden spoon. A small round cup of vanilla or chocolate ice cream, sealed with a paper lid you peeled back carefully, a flat wooden spoon tucked underneath. That spoon splintered a little on your tongue if you weren't careful, a texture kids from this era remember almost as clearly as the ice cream itself. It served as the reward at the very end of the tray, the reason some kids ate their vegetables without complaint. Ice cream cup day turned an ordinary lunch period into something worth rushing through the line for. Number 1. The full hot lunch tray itself. Not a single food, but the entire experience. The metal tray loaded with a main dish, 2 sides, a bread item, a dessert, and a carton of milk, often for under 50 cents thanks to federal school lunch subsidies. The noise of the cafeteria, the clatter of trays, the lunch ladies calling out orders, the long tables full of kids trading their tater tots for somebody else's cookie. It was loud, imperfect, and unforgettable. The single shared meal an entire generation of American kids still carries with them today. And that is the full tray. 25 trips down memory lane and 1 metal rail. What started as a list of forgotten lunches turns out to be something bigger, a window into how America once fed its kids with cheap, sturdy, government-backed meals built for a country still finding its footing after the war. The food wasn't fancy. It didn't need to be. It just needed to be there every day, waiting at the end of that line, and for millions of kids it was. If any of these 25 brought back a memory of your own cafeteria, hit like and subscribe for more forgotten pieces of American history.